certainly doesn't seem like 37 years, but if you add them up, that's I guess what it is. And I feel very grateful to Iowans to give me a chance to be Attorney General this long, so many terms. It's a great job, using the law to serve the interest of ordinary Iowans, working with a terrific staff. It's a wonderful position. I have great respect for state attorney generals. I've served with a lot of them now over those years, and they've been terrific people that serve the public interest, and they've been my friends, my colleagues. We're sort of a support group for each other. So, I'm proud and grateful and happy. It was a pivotal point in terms of tobacco use and the perception of the tobacco companies when we got in the case and resolved it. Prior to our being involved, the tobacco companies had never paid a dime in terms of a judgment or a settlement. They were a unique industry in that way. When we were done with the settlement, they were going to pay out more as an industry than any other industry. More significantly, we sort of broke the invincibility of the tobacco companies in the public the public concept and in public opinion. They had enormous power with legislators, with the Congress, and I think we broke that to some extent. We produced a foundation now described as, and now named the Truth Initiative Foundation, that marketed anti-tobacco use among kids, and it's been just an enormous success. The latest numbers from the Monitoring Future done by University of Michigan indicates for frequent tobacco use among kids, which is 20 to 30 days out of the last 30 days. For 8th graders, 10th graders, and 12th graders combined, it's 1.5%. That's lower than ever before. That's lower than we thought we would get to at this point. It's been an enormous success. If you look at the number of cigarettes sold in America, last year it was about the same rate as the number of cigarettes, same number as the cigarettes sold in 1950. If you look at it per capita, it's about the same rate as was smoked in 1930 at about 14% of the adult population. So we've made progress. It was done at a very important time. But, we can't take credit for all of that. A lot of other people, the tobacco control groups, have been working hard and in the more recent decades very successfully on these issues. So I think that's an enormous success story. And clearly people are walking around in our state alive that wouldn't have been if we didn't do what we did to the tobacco industry. Our chances of winning the tobacco case were less than those other cases. We were on a legal theory that was novel, that was somewhat unusual. We were saying that they were liable for the harm that they caused, the financial harm that they caused to the state through the payment of Medicaid expenses and insurance to deal with tobacco-related disease, that they had created a nuisance or had other kinds of responsibilities. It was a breaking case that hadn't been ruled on before. They thought at the time, they think more now, 400,000 Americans, 5,000 Iowans dying each year from tobacco-related disease, an enormous deception that they had engaged in, that we needed to do anything we could. When they came to the table to negotiate, it occurred to me that they were worried about this, that they were certainly more worried than we were certain of our position. So that gave me some extra confidence and at the time. When I was out running for Attorney General, the second time, the first successful time, traveling the state, I'd been talking a lot about consumer protection and how important that would be to me, and I think for good reason. Also concerned about farmers, and I had been meeting and talking to a lot of farmers, and it hit me when I was somewhere traveling along one of the rural roads in Iowa that, if we have something that's good for consumers, why not do the same thing for farmers? And that was sort of the origination of the thought to have a farm division, to be the fighter and advocate and protector against fraud for farmers, just like consumer protection was for consumers. We focused immediately on the seriousness of the farm crisis and the foreclosure set of issues. Worked with a lot of people, including the Iowa Bankers Association, to have mandatory mediation before there was a farm foreclosure. And that was so important because there was a situation where in many cases, not all, the farmer could pay part of the loan, but not the whole loan. And the creditor, if they foreclosed on the farm and tried to sell it on the open market, which was very depressed, they would get less money than if they took what the farmer could pay. So mediation brought them together so often to reach that compromise, which was so important to farmers and the whole rural fabric of life here, and also was better for the creditors. They realized more money that way. I think that turned out to be a good idea, and I think we did a lot of good things. I've felt strongly, for a variety of reasons, that we should not have the death penalty in Iowa. Primarily because I don't think it's a deterrent. Not being a deterrent, there are some moral questions that are raised about using the death penalty. Also, in terms of the system and making the system work. Death penalty cases can easily overwhelm the prosecution's office and the Supreme Court's time and deliberation. What we've talked about in the context of opposing the death penalty is that we do have life. We have a real life imprisonment in Iowa for those kinds of first-degree murder cases. That in some states, if you get life, they can calculate it out to 18 years. Not in Iowa. 18 years on average. Not in Iowa. Life means life in Iowa, and we think that's a good balance to strike in terms of protecting the public, having that and having the certainty and strength of that, but then not having the death penalty itself. A mixed experience, to be sure, but it's probably a necessary experience. If you get to be Attorney General at 34, a relatively young age, you have enough drive and ambition to do that. You probably want to be governor too, and I did. I ran for governor. I got my chance. I gave it all I could, and it didn't work out. And then I was able to come back as Attorney General. And a funny irony of all of this is that Frank Kelley, who has the record now today and for another week or so, the longest-serving Attorney General, was here in this room with me and talking to me about a case that he was working on. And we had a good meeting, a constructive meeting, and we walked outside the door, and Frank and I took a time just to talk amongst ourselves and not about the case. And he said, Tom, he said, aren't you glad you lost that governor's race? And I was a little startled when he said that. And then he said, well, don't get me wrong. He said, you would have been a really good governor. He said, but, if you'd be there 2-3 terms. And he said, now you'd be out doing what I'm doing. He said, aren't you happy you're doing what you're doing? And haven't you done a great job as Attorney General? Hasn't it worked out well for you? And I said, yeah, it sure has. I thought about running for the Senate a long time ago when Tom Harkin first got elected against Roger Jepsen. I gave that some serious thought, but Tom wanted to run. Tom was well positioned to run, and I thought Tom would be a very good senator, which turned out to be true. So I backed off fairly quickly on that. I'm sort of still recovering from Steve not running. He's a terrific guy, a terrific candidate. He would have been our strongest candidate in a general election, generally and especially in Iowa, with his appeal to rural voters. So I'm missing Steve and missing him as a candidate, but as I've said, that down the stretch drive, the race is so important, and it's so much fun that I'm going to jump back in at some point. This could be the last term, but I'm not entirely sure, and don't want to issue a total statement one way or another. But this could be my last term, but I haven't decided for sure. I think Iowans are a good judge of their public officials, and are willing to give us chances repeatedly when they think that makes sense. Let me just say again how thankful I am to Iowans. It's a great job. Using the law to serve the interest of ordinary Iowans is just an absolutely wonderful job, and I so am appreciative to Iowans to giving me the chance now many times to do this. And the other thing I would repeat is the incredible staff, the people that I've worked here with, just so talented and good people, honest people with integrity and working in the public interest and with good people skills. It's been a great place to work, in part because of the people that have been here.